Alrighty, so I have something a little bit on the interesting side for y'all today. We're going to go and pick up our race truck. I'm going to go ahead and use this video as an opportunity to show you a little bit of adventure. I'm also going to show you a little bit of opportunity. No, not opportunity, sorry. It's going to be a reveal, and I really need to get out of the habit of going, every single time. But as I was saying, let me slow my breath down a moment. We're going to go and pick up the race vehicle. We're going to reveal the race vehicle, and we're going to try some new things today in terms of shooting. In fact, I have a little bit of a surprise. It's this. I have found my old camera. I'm going to go ahead and stop that recording there because I don't need to record in two different hands at the same time. I have found my old camera, and it works, which is fantastic. I don't know how the audio it is, so I maybe apologize in advance, but I got that, and I got my tripod out just as well. But I think this thing records in better quality, if I'm not mistaken, and it also records forward, so you can actually see that this says Quest for the Hammers. How about that? Anyway, we're going to go ahead and head on over first to the storage next door. We're going to pick up the parts that are in there that don't belong to us. We're going to haul them over to my friend's house and drop them off at that truck, and then we're going to try to pick up that truck and bring it back. I have a way of doing that. I'm not entirely sure if I can post how I'm going to be doing that for obvious reasons to some people, but that is in the plans for today. So first things first, let's go ahead and get ourselves all put together and then go to the storage next door. And we're going to try the whole tripod thing while we're at it. Shall we? This part's going to be a little bit interesting to do, I think. Well, I think it's time that we go and find ourselves maybe a caffeinated beverage and then we do some driving. I think I need to make sure I have an air pump, jumper cables, and I think that there's fuel in the vehicle already. So I think that's all we really need to get moving. Let's give it a try. And here we are. We have now made it on over here to the super secret storage facility that we've got going on. Actually, I'm using the tripod as a selfie stick, which is working out pretty good, but here's the vehicle. Let me see if I can orient myself. Hold on, this is complicated. There we go. Haha. We have ourselves, oof, try to bubble in my throat here. Good old Ford Brozo. Yep. So anyways, this is going to be the vehicle. Now we're going to be taking this thing apart and we're going to be doing quite a bit of work to it. Let's see if I can orient myself. This is tough. I have to go like the opposite direction I'm seeing. Everything's actually backwards, which is pretty neat. Now, we're going to be doing some work here. We have to charge the battery. We have to fill up one of the tires. We have to make sure it has fuel, and we have to make sure it starts. So let's go ahead and start piece by piece, getting this thing ready to go and operate. One moment. bit. Okay, so it appears that my camera died a little bit ago. Battery strength is apparently not its strong suit, so either I'm gonna have to get myself a better camera or I'm going to have to invest in some other way, shape, or form. Now I'm gonna go ahead and set y'all up over here for just a second here. We are going to take this truck on an adventure. Maybe I can do this over here, hold on. There's a place I could set a camera up in here. This would just be so awesome. I don't even know if I can though. We're gonna go ahead and embark upon an adventure we're going to put some freshly squeezed dinosaurs into this thing in the form of boom juice and transsexual fluid. And that way we can get this vehicle down the road. Now, right now, the power steering ain't gonna work so well. And we're low on fuel. So there's a gas station right over there. We're gonna make a quick trip down the road. And we're going to get her liquided up and ready for transportation. We'll call it that anyway. So, I am not going to record that process for obvious reasons, but we will see you all on the other side. Just a moment. Boop. Alrighty, we finally made it back. My wonderful brother Scott handled the towing. As you can see, the racing machine is here. We're going to be taking it apart and getting ready for racing here soon. But I tell you what, there's nobody on this planet that can match his skills at towing a vehicle with a Bluetooth trailer. Thanks, Scott. Trailer? Yeah, it works great. I tell you, I was surprised. He told me about it. I was expecting it to not work. I was a skeptic or so. We definitely did not drive it because that's illegal.
He had to download the app on his vehicle.
Yeah,
you know,
it was hard to do because it's 96
on his touchscreen, right?
And back in '96, they didn't have like easy Bluetooth, so I kind of had to reverse the polarity of the wiring to get it to work. But once we got that going, just Bluetoothed it right on home. It was these newer vehicles are great, and I don't think that anybody can handle a Bluetooth trailer like my brother Scott can. I tell you, he made it seem seamless, almost like I drove it here myself.
It was awesome. It was almost like a game glitch, but you know, like the trailer's invisible. So his vehicle's like floating up in the air just behind my vehicle.
Actually, legend is that's where you learned it from, if I'm not mistaken. So cool beans. Yeah.
And trailer school, you know?
The vehicle's here now. Oh no, I'm getting a phone call. I'm gonna have to check that in a second. Hopefully it's not causing the recording any troubles. That would be just iration-y. That's to make someone irate. We're gonna go ahead and help him with his tasks now, and that's not part of the YouTube channel. So we will catch you in our next little piece of adventure. Tomorrow with the sun out, I'm gonna show you some of the details of this thing before it comes apart. So see y'all soon. And here she is. Now, sorry you don't have the world's best audio around, but this is my 1996 Ford Bronco that I purchased some odd years ago. I can't remember exactly when. It's been through a series of abuses. Some modifications to make it better for off-road work, some modifications to not be so successful, and many fixes to get that thing up and working like it's supposed to. It still has troubles. Anyway, there's lots that needs to be done and taken care of, but right now I think is a fantastic time. Let's see if I can get this view to work a little bit better here. Go ahead and turn you up towards the world because I'm a tall guy, you know? I think that what we should do right now is maybe take you through a tour of the vehicle itself, kind of show you the stuff that we've done to it in the past, talk about what we had done and how it had gone for us, and then I think that we should maybe talk a little bit about what we might do. Now, that all is for a video later on in the series after we start building the thing, but for now, let's show you this masterpiece as a canvas to start our work on. Come with me. Okay, I've got you strapped to my hand now. Let's see if I got zoomed out as far as it'll go. Yep, we sure do. Okie dokie. So first things first, a lot of this body had come apart in quite some time. I'm trying to stay out of the shadow here if I can. There we are. So a lot of this over here is all missing. Now, this is a fancy aftermarket hood strap, but let's go ahead and get that undone. Now, here's the part that may hurt many of you auto enthusiasts. Let me go ahead and put you back on the tripod so you can see this wonderful masterpiece here. Prepare yourself. How about that? Okay, let's take a look inside of here first. So, first and foremost, many of you are wondering what kind of power we're bringing on over to the King of the Hammers. And this right here, folks, is a not so pristine, mildly abused Ford 351 Windsor. You can see custom modifications such as rust down there on the exhaust manifolds and stuff of that sort there. I have all the original pieces on this. This is the original air conditioning compressor. This is the original, no, this is an aftermarket alternator that I had to put on. Water pump has never been changed. And the power steering is actually aftermarket. I went and I snagged that out of a Ford Econoline out of the salvage yard, and it made power steering worlds better. It made a huge difference. If you have a Bronco or an F-150 and you plan on going anything off-road, I highly recommend you get yourself that style of power steering pump. It makes a world of a difference. It is much, much better. I didn't do a very good job of installing it though. Down there's lots of leaks. I think I got a piece of dirt in there or something like that. I will be fixing that at a later date, of course. We still have the original air intake on there. I have not learned enough about fuel injection to figure out how I can maybe undo this mass airflow sensor mechanism here. And we have our nice hot air intake right there, just below our engine cage. Speaking of the engine cage, let's talk a little bit about the suspension system. So I did quite a bit of my own homebrew. Going on here. And put all this stuff together. And it doesn't work bad. I really do not like the limiting strap chains. I will tell you right now, if you plan on doing this yourself, that's a pretty terrible way of going about limiting the downstroke of your suspension system. It makes a lot of noise, and anybody who uses their ears to diagnose their vehicles on the road will know that listening to stuff like that will just send your anxiety through the roof. It's a absolutely terrible idea. Please don't do this to yourself. Lots of rust. Of course, I never painted anything. I need to fix that, of course, because rust is a bad thing. But I built these tubes. They go all the way to the front through that box that you see right up here. They go through this box and actually attach to a plate that goes up and down to the bottom there, and bolts, of course, to the beams with grade 8 bolts. They're big honking bolts, so they're plenty strong. These shocks might be reused in our suspension system design. The positioning of these shocks currently is not so great, I think. I think I certainly could have done a much better job of repositioning them, but I was in a hurry when I put this together. I made this engine cage shock hoop combination. It's hard to see this viewfinder in the sun. It goes up, across, and then it comes back down over here, as you can see, and welds to the frame. All that is going to go. I think I'm going to relocate the new shock to the top here, and then gusset it really well with some sheet metal. I used some 4-inch lift springs here. I originally designed it for some 4.5-inch lift springs. We might reuse these. This is a modified version of the original coil bucket. I put plates on the side and gusseted it so it wouldn't bend up under heavy stress. So that is what I had done on both sides of this suspension system. It's a neat setup. It could have been better. I certainly don't like the way these brake lines are going, but it worked. It did the job. This is my first attempt ever at a beadlock rim. I think it kind of went well. I think it had some troubles too. The anti-coning ring does not really do a good job of keeping the ring from anti-coning. So I am going to need to address that for sure. Let's go ahead and move on up here. Just real quick back to that. So there you can see my shock hoops that are kind of hanging out down here. Let's see if I can give myself a little bit of a shade here. You can kind of see the shock hoops down there, and they attach to an engine cage, and it crosses over and attaches to the other side over there. These are probably some of my worst welds because they were just a weird, awkward position to be in, but it's decently solid. It's not bad. One of the troubles this vehicle continually has is right there is the coil pack, and you can see how rusty and nasty that thing looks. Water drips from the sill up here right on down perfectly on top of that coil pack, and it causes it to short out and not work until it dries out, in which case the truck does run pretty good. Roll cage. I did a lot of work in here. Let's go to the other side there so we're not being blinded by the sun, shall we? Here, roll cage. I'm being blinded by the sun now. There we are. Maybe I can do that a little bit better. I cannot see what you guys can see. I'm so sorry right now. Okay, so you can see I did quite a bit of roll cage work here. I worked a lot on gussets, making sure that things were triangulated, because I know that triangles are the strongest. That way, if any force is exerted directly on this corner, it's going to be equally dispersed through this tube and through this bottom tube over here. I don't know how much of that y'all can see. I, again, apologize. So I did a lot of that. I didn't know too much whenever I put this whole section together. I knew that I wanted to have this tube here run a straight line all the way through to that back corner there. And that was my thinking there. But I have a little bit of an interruption here because I wanted to have this double main hoop set up kind of going on. This double main hoop setup I thought was a great idea. I will be honest, at the end of the day, after dealing with it, it's not so great. I kind of wish I had not done it, and in the next iteration, I will not. The main hoop does this kind of maneuver here. Oh man, I just don't know if you can see that right there. I'm focusing on that. So I've got a main hoop that moves on down beside the driver's seat over there, and it goes all the way up and over. It's a single piece that comes up and goes all the way over. And then I have a secondary main hoop here. This is actually attached to the body of the truck, and then it comes on down and follows this line here. And I thought it'd be really cool to do that, and then I was going to originally just come on down straight and maybe plant here perhaps somewhere, but I came to a better idea that maybe I could curve it back in and go back towards the front through that piece there. It was an experiment. It didn't go well in my opinion. I'm not really happy with that outcome, but I learned a lot, so that was a great experience. So here again, I designed this portion of the roll cage to have plenty of room to stand up in, because when you're at the off-road park, lots of people are going to want to stand in like a position like so here, and you got lots of room to be able to move back and forth and throw beer cans at fellow drivers and that sort of stuff there, because that's all important stuff to think about. And I've got these little handles here just as well for the same purpose. Somebody can stand in this little triangle here, and somebody can stand in this little triangle here, and that's more for like the slow going night ride where everybody's just kind of chill and driving at a leisurely pace. And I built that with the idea that my friends would have room to be in the truck if they wanted to all stand in one vehicle, if need be. A lot of them have their own off-road vehicles and they don't need it, but I made lots of room for those activities just in case that came around. So I had to make some clearance. This was all done by me in a very short amount of time, and I don't think at the end of the day that it's a good long-term setup. I think that this cage is perfectly fine for going out and having fun, which is what I originally planned on doing with this Bronco. But this cage I don't think is going to fly for racing, so it's going to be sawzalled out and done away with. Rear end suspension wise, I have the amazing modifications of lift blocks and lift shocks. Woo! Yeah, no, I preach and preach and preach against lift shocks and lift blocks. They are just the worst modification you could do, period. I have a heavy dislike for them. But other than that, these things come with a double cardan back, you know, a U-joint. There we go, I had to think about the word. And the pinion angle is easily able to be set with some small modifications to the leaf springs. I don't have much really done back here. I have plans and I have parts for that sort of stuff, but once again, we're going to cover all that stuff in another video when we actually start to build stuff. That gas tank is a 33, maybe 34 gallon gas tank. Absolutely fantastic, lots of capacity, plenty of space to have your fun and wheel all weekend long. But it's not race legal. I need to get an actual racing fuel cell that will help protect me in the event of a crash, rollover, or what have you. So that is something worth considering. Let's see if I can look over here to the front if y'all want to see some better stuff. There is the typical Ford territory marking mechanism. That's actually going to be power steering fluid. I have a leak up there and it keeps on coming back. That is a Dana 44 front end. That's what these things came with. And here is the inside view of these radius arms that I made. I don't think they did bad. I think we're going to reuse them, to be honest. I think that what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off these shock mounts. I'm going to plate them in so they're a little bit more sturdy. And I think that they will work fine. I might have to strengthen up where they attach here just a bit because I hear that's a weak point too. I've never personally had any problems with it. Oh, I also get to show you, I modified my bump stops too. This thing does travel to full bump. And I think that I squeezed somewhere in the neighborhood of about 13.5 inches of wheel travel with this current setup. And the main limiting factor is actually this. Let's see if I can get a little closer. Y'all can get a better view. I had to do myself a little twirl here. All right, this U-joint I snagged from this short shaft here. This is all from a Dana 50. It goes right into the Dana 44. You can see there. It goes right in. No troubles whatsoever. It fits, has the same spline count. It does just fine. And then the Dana 44 shaft, I actually have some chromoly shafts that go through here. They're kind of messy looking, but
they spline right in to this, no problem whatsoever. You have to put a spring inside of this space here to get it to push this back in, but again, that's all fancy stuff. I'm gonna have to cover it a little bit later on. I'm gonna have to turn myself upside down a little bit as you're looking at it from my view. But I've got chromoly shafts in there with some nice, just kind of OEM style U-joints, and they haven't given me any troubles yet. However, I probably have some poor geometry here and there, and that poor geometry is probably going to ruin those shafts very quickly. That's another thing we're going to have to think about in the future. Reliability is a very important, let me go ahead and move to the other side here. Reliability is a very important consideration whenever it comes to racing at the King of the Hammers. And so I'm thinking about either A, finding some really nice high quality axle shaft U-joints and making sure that these things are nice and solid, and that has a few benefits. I can have easily replaceable parts from your local parts house or your local supplier, or I can maybe go with something fancy like some RCV shafts, which have a lower probability of breaking and therefore more of a safe, what is the word I'm looking for here? When you're considering something. I haven't had enough caffeine yet, I'm sorry y'all. Anyway, that is just kind of a quick tour of this wondrous beast, we'll call it, because it is certainly not a beautiful mechanism at the moment. But I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get myself some B-roll footage, and I think that this is enough to start editing things. We'll talk about plans and what we're going to do to this thing in the future. If y'all enjoyed this kind of stuff, be sure to like and subscribe and actually share with your friends, because if I can grow this channel and have more viewers, then that would be absolutely dandy.
Welcome to the voiceover and B-roll of this video. This truck and I have quite a bit of colorful history together despite our short relationship. I purchased this vehicle from a guy who was using it for his deer lease, and he and his buddies had done their own change to the Bronco here and there, but their work was pretty hasty and showed little care. I spent most of my time fighting their shoddy work. Of course, I don't mean any disrespect to them. They did what they had to do at their budget for their own needs. But after many repairs and a few modifications, I had taken it to a few off-road parks where it received compliments about how well it actually seemed to be performing. Nobody seemed to notice the ridiculous amount of work I was performing on this vehicle on trail and at camp just to keep this dang thing alive. It wasn't long after that I decided I didn't like this truck anymore, and the frustrations that I felt for it grew too great to keep. So I decided I was going to take all the parts I wanted out of it, set those aside for other projects, and blow the rest of it up with some tannerite. I then had a friend of mine request that they get this truck as a reward for some personal goals that they hoped to accomplish, and that all ended up kind of falling through, and the vehicle just sat for a little while before I took it in to be played with yet some more. Now, since those events, the truck started behaving. The piled up trouble seemed to finally wash away, and my modifications finally started taking place, and it became a fun vehicle to own. It has had some custom touches, we could say, from some friends, and slowly began to earn its way into a place in my stables. It's only fair now that after all this truck and I have been through, that it becomes the first steed that I ride into my first quest into King of the Hammers. Please consider subscribing to this video. I will be adding more content soon about workshop upgrades, vehicle builds, how-tos, and maybe some gaming. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching, and I hope very much to see you in the next video.